It's Do Time with Pastor Steph.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. That was an extra good morning for last week when we weren't on and we were preparing for the conference and you didn't get my good mornings. I am so happy to be back with you. Whenever I'm away from you all, I am going through withdrawals. Yes, I am. I miss you all immensely. And you're on with this Do Time with Pastor Steph. I forgot to say that part. I'm sorry. But this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So, my question, where were you on Saturday, July 19th? Oh, man. If you weren't at the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference 2025, you missed it. Yes, you did. But I tell you, it was a phenomenal presentation by the ladies. It was amazing. All the preparation that went into this conference, it paid off. It paid off well. The place looked amazing. Oh my goodness, when you talk about transformation of a place, I thought last year the place was transformed. It was gorgeous last year, but this year, oh my goodness, it was absolutely breathtaking. Now, part of our set wouldn't cooperate, but I tell you, it wasn't missed. It wasn't missed at all. Oh my goodness, from the back door to the front, it was, just a sight to be seen before anyone could even get up in front of the or behind the podium. Just looking at the scenery, it was absolutely beautiful. Now, for some reason, nobody takes pictures in this video. What? You know what? That's the millennials. See, with Gen X, we love pictures. I can appreciate a video, but I want a still picture because here's what could have happened. I could have had them flash that up on the screen and it would have been nice and crystal clear. But now all I got is a video. So if I want to show you how the place looked, I got to have it panned all over the place. And I was so disappointed when they told me they didn't have pictures. I'm like, I have pictures of this beautiful work. We got video. I don't want a video. I want to be able to put that up on my wall each year. This is how it looked. Last year, I asked for pictures and they gave me videos. And they turned around and gave me videos again. So unfortunately, I don't have anything to show you really, unless they work something out and make it happen. But I tell you, it was, I just described what I wanted and they put the rest to it. They add, to it what, they see. And it looked amazing. So before you could even get to who was speaking, it looked amazing in there. And you listen, I had people say to me, I thought I was in the wrong place. This looks nothing like what it normally looks. Now, it's not that the normal look is bad, but that's how great the transformation is. So God is amazing because the skill set he gives to his people is unmatched. And we can't give any credit to anybody. We can't even take any credit at the end of the day, because if it weren't for God, we just wouldn't even have this ability, these gifts and talents. And they may not even know, that they could even do this stuff. But it's not until God challenges you that you really get an idea of what you can do. So it was a beautiful sight to behold. And the set designers worked hard, and you could see that they worked. I mean, it was effort put into that place. When one thing wouldn't work, they were up for plan B, plan C, plan D. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So before we even get into that, because we're going to talk about it today, let me let you go get that healthy breakfast. Go tell somebody that it's due time with Pastor Steph is on. And whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because we will be right back.
Smoking and detox. Pretty please. Is anybody listening out there? Share this video with somebody that you care about. Not only do you have to stop smoking, but you also have to detox. And let me explain why. So if you're new here, you just open up your app, you're going to find out some interesting things. I know you're probably smoking right now, but let me tell you exactly what you're doing to your lungs. So existing inside of your lungs are these things called alveoli. They're in everybody's lungs. And alveoli are responsible for putting oxygen inside of your blood. Without that, you won't exist. You won't be here anymore. So you see this right here? This is called the alveolus gas exchange. Anytime you put anything other than oxygen inside of your alveolus gas exchange, mucus and inflammation develops inside of the alveoli. Then your alveoli will begin to look like this. You see how this is callous, dark, and black? Yeah, once that happens in your lungs, you're going to develop something called smoker's lung. And that's going to look something like this. You see how this is is dark and callous and black? You don't want your lungs to look like that. You want your lungs to look like mine, teeming with life, vibrant, and pink. Now, there's a solution. You can stop smoking. Of course, that's the number one solution. But also, along with stopping of smoke, with quitting smoking and discontinuing smoking,
Good morning, and good morning again. Welcome back to It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. And we are shaking the Monday morning blues. Yeah, with some recap of what happened this magical weekend. Amazing. And you know how we do each and every morning. We give a shout out to Pastor Steph, because I want to say hello to you. But if you're not shouting me out, I have no idea you're on. So let's start with our girl, Ketty. Hey, Ketty girl. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Ketty was part of the kitchen crew that made it happen on Saturday for the women's conference, and they did a wonderful job. Thank you so much for making sure the eats were good. Now, for those of you who were there, Ketty made the cupcakes. Yes. Now, I got an egg allergy, but I couldn't help get one of those cupcakes, and they were so nice and moist and smooth, and it was good. Good job. Good job, Kenny. And I got a compliment from the people who ate the cupcakes, and they enjoyed them as well. So they were a hit, girl. They were a hit. We got a shout out from our boy Serge. Now, Serge did his thing. Yes, we could not have done it without Serge. I mean, the technical part of making sure we had sound and timing of the presenters, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful to have Serge there, just doing whatever he always does, and he works very hard to ensure that things run smoothly for us. He's such a gentleman. I gotta tell you, such a gentleman. Such a gentleman. Thank you so much, Serge. We surely appreciate you. Oh, we got a shout out from our girl, Lady Tamika. She's not going to be on with us today on video, so we're going to miss her. But, excuse me, we want to say good morning, and we're looking for your comments in the chat room. So thank you so much. All righty. We must say good morning to the ladies that hold it down for us here on It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. And boy, where would we be without the women of It's Due Time who handle the technical part? Well, I want to talk about this one particular young lady. Our girl Anika. Oh my goodness. Woo! Does she come through? And she's always, one who has always come through. She is the one who put together the announcement, the magazine announcement for the Breaking the Yoke conference. She also put together the program and the playbill. Whenever you go to like Broadway, you have a playbill. Well, she put together the playbill, if you will, for the Breaking the Yoke conference, Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference. And the program is like anywhere else you go, you have the QR code on the outside of your bag. And when you go on there, you get the magazine, and it is so friendly. You just flip the pages. Some little modification that I personally want to do on it, just to do the Stephanie thing. But when I tell you that magazine, I still haven't gotten through the whole thing. No, but it is absolutely beautifully presented. Shout out to you, Anika, who always makes sure, digitally we are moving with the times. We are not behind on anything. It was amazing. It was amazing. And we're not finished. When all the videos go up on the YouTube channel of the presentations that were made on Saturday, they will be included in that playbill. So amazing job well done. And I haven't even gotten through, let's say, a third of the magazine. Yeah, we don't want no boring website. No, we want something interactive. So that's what you got. So great job. We are celebrating Shantice, who also keeps us running in the technological area of It's Due Time with Pastor Steph this morning. And boy, oh boy, remember last week and the week before, we had Vivian and Shantice talking about the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference. They were fantastic. They looked great. Vivian's face looked great. Her dress was great. Shantice was great. Shantice danced, y'all. It was I told you, don't miss it. If you enjoy those ladies each week, I told you they had a treat for us because on their own show, with all due respect with Shantice and V, they are always great. So I knew from last year's presentation and what they had been kind of sharing with me, you know, Vivian, if you can get on, please just come on, because I want you to just say briefly, what your presentation was, because it was a phenomenal concept. Even just the concept alone, again, we talked about what did God say? The struggle is real, continued. And she came from a different angle. Not amazing. So if you can't, you weren't prepared, that's fine. But I don't want to tell the story. We're going to have Shantice on today. I don't want to tell it, but I loved her presentation. And it went over well. It went over well because quite a few people talked about it. I spoke to, some people who attended. I spoke to some of the presenters, and everyone talked about how blessed they were and how much they walked away with. So you all just made it happen. So I was in the middle of my shout outs. Let's see. Oh, okay. Shanti says, conference was amazing. You don't have to be just an onlooker, and you don't have to be just someone who is a participant to be able to see say whether something is good. So they really, really, really did their thing. Now I'm coming back to that. I want to go into my health tip. I saw something and I only looked at the first part of it because I'm coming back, and that way if Vivian can get on, it'll give her an opportunity to get on. But I got things you never should store in plastic containers. Now, for some reason, this is ringing a bell. It's ringing a bell. But when I kind of glanced through all of the different things, I didn't see some of the things I saw. I didn't remember. So I'm looking at the date of the article. It's from July 14th. And I know I did not do this within the last week or so. So let's talk about some of the things they say you should not store in plastic containers. Raw meats. Yes, they're saying it's not a good thing to store a raw meat in plastic containers. Store them in glass containers instead. It's always best to make sure you're storing it in something airtight, but they say make sure you do not leave the lid open or in a plastic container that can leak. We know why, because raw meat is extremely dangerous. Yes, if you got raw meat around and you have not cleaned up, that is a serious contaminant. So you don't want to have your uncooked meat touching anything. But for some reason, they say that, it's better to store it in glass containers. So that's what we'll do. Tomato sauces and curries. Now, without looking, I'm going to tell you that curry, I am into turmeric now for my diabetes. Everything is straight yellow. And I know tomato sauces can also change the color. And yet your items don't look good anymore, your plastic containers. So let's see what they say. Forever stained, that's what they're talking about. With spaghetti sauce and curries and all kinds of saucy items. So that's what they're saying. It can degrade. Wow, okay. It can degrade and absorb odors over time when you break it down from the curries and the sauces. They say make sure you want to get rid of those containers, plastic containers, because doesn't look good, and it no longer has the strength that it has. Now, can you imagine being worn down? Wow, what kind of plastic they using? Well, one of the reasons why is because it's recyclable plastic. Yeah. So remember now, recycle is just broken down and broken down and broken down. So you know, it's no wonder it doesn't last that, the way it used to last when we were kids. Okay. They say do not store garlic, onions, and fresh herbs in a plastic container. Now, excuse me. They say that foods with a strong odor, such as onions and garlic and certain cheeses, can penetrate the plastic, which will leave it stained with the smell. So we just got finished talking about it being stained with the color. And now they're saying that these particular items leave them stained with odor. And you don't want your stuff smelling like garlic. No. Fruits. Wow. Well, they say similar to herbs and, things like that. Fruits and berries and avocados and citruses should be left out of plastic as well. They say that fruits like berries and avocados tend to go bad faster in plastic than in containers. And they lack the ventilation that will keep them from getting mushy and moldy. Okay. If you want your fruits to last longer, make sure you put it in a glass container. Okay. Hot food. Ooh. Hot food and liquids should never be stored in plastic containers. High temperatures can cause the plastic to release harmful chemicals. Well, we talked about that before many times. That BPA component that they have left out of the plastic containers now, that they say is one of the key components for contaminating your plasticware, especially when it's heated. So make sure, they say, keep hot food out of plastic containers. Oily, fatty, or greasy foods. They say put them in proper storage. Oily, fatty, and greasy foods do not react well to plastic and should be put in glass because that holds better. Wow. Foods that have a high content or produce a lot of grease can break down the plastic over a long period of time. Wow. All right, so no more oily, fatty, or greasy foods in plastic. And here's something I don't understand. Books. They're saying food is not the only thing we should leave out of plastics. They say some household items such as books is definitely more do not put in your plastic. They say that when they store books in plastic containers, the temperature of the container will cause the books to mildew or mold or even warp. Wow. Leather goods. Wow. They say leather, like your purse, your boots, jackets, and some other things, keep them out of plastic because they should be kept in a cool, dry place. And leather can develop mold or mildew. And because of the moisture in the plastic, that you will see mold and mildew eventually on your leather. Wow. Photographs. Wow. What do they care? Nobody got no photographs. And they don't do that no more. Only we do. Okay. They say same thing. They will begin to stick together or fade over time. Use containers specifically made for photo storage. So If you've got grandma's old pictures, your mother's old pictures, make sure you keep them in a container that's made for photos. Okay? Not the plastic. Candles. Wow. Well, they say plastic and candles don't necessarily mix. And you would think that they do. But if that plastic is exposed to heat or sunlight, it can be a component that makes the wax melt. So you don't want your candles melted, right? Okay. So make sure you do not put your candles in the plastic bins. Okay. Well, they say overall, the material for storage best is glass. Yeah. So it's great for hot or cold things, and you won't have to worry about anything becoming spoiled like that or contaminated or weak, and you'll do better. All right. All righty. Let's see. So we're talking about our Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference. But before we do that, I want to get a little news in. I wasn't too great with the news last night. That wasn't something they didn't have a lot to talk about. I said, well, it's good we do have our Breaking the Yoke to talk about, because the news was pretty sparse yesterday. So let's see what's going on. Well, Coca-Cola. I thought this was really interesting. I thought this was very interesting. If I had anything to talk about, this is something that I really wanted to talk about when I actually pulled it up. So they have an organization called the Animal Recovery Mission, the ARM. And they documented, now I guess they're like some people who go around and they check for animal cruelty. So they went around back in, they say, from December 2024 through March of 25. They did some research and they found that the Woodcrest facility in New Mexico, between that period of time, was responsible for animal mistreatment. Now they say workers were filmed extracting I don't understand the cruelty in people. Workers were filmed forcibly extracting unborn calves from cows not yet in labor using chains. Newborn calves were left to suffer and die from blunt force trauma and neglect. Why would you try to take an animal or a baby from its mother before even she was in labor? What, oh my God, what could you do with that? They say investigators also recorded pregnant and sick cows being whipped, punched, kicked, and beaten with metal objects, including shovels, wrenches, and pipes. They say the abuse was carried out by various staff, including owners, managers, and ranch hands. They say that the Cool Down, which is a Coca-Cola company, well, at least that's someone who they were using for a while. They said that they were never their primary, that this farm What's the name of the farm? Let me get the name of the farm again. The Woodcrest facility was never really their primary location. Now, what you've seen Fairlife milk. Well, that's a Coca-Cola company. Yeah. And of course, they're supposed to be responsible for ensuring that, these facilities are not mistreating the animals. So this ARM organization is separate from you watching over your facility to ensure that they're not mistreating. They're supposed to be the big guys that, oversee what's happening. And they're supposed to be able to make like pop-up inspections and, things like that. And boy, did they find some stuff. So they're now after Coca-Cola with, did you know that all of this was going on, the mistreatment of these cows? And Coca-Cola is saying that, their Fairlife division is committed to ensuring strong animal welfare and supplying farms and has zero tolerance for animal abuse. And that Woodcrest Dairy in New Mexico is no longer a supplier to Fairlife, and they are not accepting any milk from them anymore. Now, they don't say why. They're no longer accepting this milk from them, but it's very well that they have found on their own some defects in how they treat the animals. So that may have been what separated them. But when I read that, my heart was just broken. They said in February of 2025, this year, that ARM released 2 more investigations from their Arizona dairies, also in Fairlife's supply chain, where cows were stabbed, beaten, shot, and electrocuted. Why? Wow. They say thousands of calves were kept in illegal veal crates and left to suffer. Now, they've got some legal issues going on to the tune of $21 million, where there's a class action suit against Fairlife. And again, Coca-Cola is saying that we don't have anything to do with those type of organizations that treat the animals like this. So let me say this. One of the reasons why this was really interesting to me, we've been talking about over the years, we've talked about the breakdown in food, the breakdown of our bodies and how we're digesting this food and how good the food is for us. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you don't think, let me read this back. If you don't think that calves that were delivered prior to their mothers being in labor, them being whipped with chains and all kinds of things, that they're being stabbed and beaten and electrocuted, if that does not affect their bodies that are producing this meat that we are ingesting, this is why we're getting sick. This is why there's so many allergies. This is why. Because we don't know how this stuff is being maintained. We don't know how these animals are being treated. And I'm not going to believe that all this time, all this electrocuting, but that's not the first time I've heard that they have electrocuted cows. I don't know why. I would love to get someone who is in that field on this broadcast. I would love to, because I would love to see, why are they treated like this? What's the point? Why? What do they do or don't do to deserve that? So this is crazy. This is definitely some, mistreatment that if we don't care, we should care, because it's cruelty to God's creation. It's no different than mistreating people. It's still God's creation. And we always talk about, some people love their animals and their dogs more than they love people and things like that. We know that this is true, but again, at the end of the day, I honestly don't believe that is not affecting what they produce and what we're being given. My question is, well, then what are they doing with the meat even after? What are you doing? Can we even trust you? So I thought that was really very interesting, and I wanted to talk about that today, because we need to pray for our little animals. We do. We really need to pray. And hopefully this week we'll be able to reintroduce our pray for them. Now that I said that, and not necessarily for the animals, but just pray for them. But pray for the animals. Okay? What else are we talking about? Well, I'm gonna save that one. There was one that I also wanted to talk about. Here we go. There's another story about an 82-year-old grandfather that they have deported. And this is an interesting story. So he lost his green card, and doing the right thing, wanted to make sure that he, got that green card if he should ever be approached, because he's legally here. He just misplaced the green card. Well, they went to the immigration department to get this green card, he and his wife, only to be arrested. Well, his wife ended up not with him at one point. And when he was then ended up missing, because she knew where he had gone. She knew where she had accompanied him to. I don't know what happened with the separation, but he was missing. So they thought that he had somehow died, and they didn't know anything about it. He's from Chile, and his family is here in Allentown. And they said the last time they had seen him, he and his wife visited the Philadelphia immigration office to replace his lost green card. And like I said, for some reason, they got separated. And they said the officers handcuffed him, took him away without explanation. And the family didn't know what happened to him. Well, they get a phone call. What's his name? Luis Leon is dead. Yes. That's what they told. That's what they called and told the family. And the wife is the one who received the call. And they said that they had found him and that he had been confirmed dead. Well, I don't know how they found out, but they found out that he had been moved from a detention center in Minnesota out to Guatemala. Yes. So where did the death notification come from? Where did that come from? So they reached out to ICE for more information, and they told her that he had been moved from a detention center from Minnesota to Guatemala, and that's where he was. Now, they don't know why Guatemala. well, part of, and they cite that part of the reason is, remember, these people are not being sent back necessarily to the place where they came from. So El Salvador, Guatemala, Venezuela, he's Chilean. So it's like, what are you doing over there if you should be here? Because remember now, the green card states where you come from. So even had they checked his green card credentials, they would have seen that, oh, he's from Chile. It didn't matter. They handcuffed him and took him over to Guatemala. Well, the family is planning to visit him in Guatemala, and the granddaughter says she's going to be the one who flies out because he suffers from diabetes, high blood pressure, and other conditions. So, you know good and well, if he's in Guatemala, they're not treating diabetes, they're not treating his high blood pressure or any other health condition that he may have. So, here's what we do wrong. We make a bad situation worse. So you're snatching up everybody, and some people would agree that if they're not here legally, they need to go back. That's me. However, why you can't just do the right thing? Why you can't do it for the right reasons? This is some vengeance he has out on these people. And this is what's causing you done got all your henchmen to extradite these people into countries that they know nothing about. And, so now you make it look 10 times worse what you're doing because of the method that you're using to do it. So it's really, really bad. They say 56,800 people have been that have wait. Well, I want to 56,800 people that are currently in ICE detention. I wanted to make sure that they didn't say that's currently now, and they say 72% have nothing to do with a criminal background. So you started with, I'm going to send the people back, especially those who are criminals, but how you end up with the other tip on the scale. So, oh boy, I don't know. You just can't do things like this and it's pleasing in God's sight. None. Saying good morning to Deacon Diallo. Thank you so much for dropping by. Oh, great morning all from Majesty. Good morning, Majesty. Majesty was an attendee at the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference. And we got Vivian on. So let's talk to her for a little bit about this Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference and about her presentation regarding what did God say? The struggle is real continued. Hey, Viv.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us off the cuff. How are you?
You're welcome. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm well. Thank you. I'm well. We were talking about, or I was talking about, the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference and yours and Shantice's presentation, with all due respect, with Shantice and V. And I said it was a phenomenal presentation. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
your presentation, you're welcome. Your presentation was interesting. It came from an interesting angle. And I wanted you to just kind of talk about that for a little bit and why it wasn't just, the struggle is real, anger, what did God say? But you came in from another direction. Why?
Because God said so. That's how he gave it to me. I went at
Okay.
an angle, especially the beginning. Shantice and I were trying to figure out how to intro our segment, and God gave me the idea of coming up with sort of like a game where I would read out different things that people say and do in their state of anger, and having everyone admit to these things, and then reversing it and being like, well, actually, if you're saying and doing these things, then you can't necessarily say you're struggling with anger, but this could possibly just be disobedience to what God is doing.
Mm. Amen. Amen.
Mhm.
Wow. So what was how did you name I like the name, the way you said it. Give it to us the way you said it on Saturday.
Don't claim that struggle. That's just disobedience.
Wow, wow, wow. And what do you find is, you mentioned anger. So give us one of the items you talked about that we normally say, or we say that it's just disobedience. It ain't got nothing to do with no struggle.
One of the things that I used was I got time today. So a lot of a while ago, a video came out and went viral of a little boy saying, I got time today, basically for the shenanigans. So when you're using something like that, that sounds premeditated. That don't sound like no struggle.
Okay. Okay. And how do you think it benefited the attendees to look at it from that opposite angle, and not just straight at, I'm just struggling with this thing, with this angle? But if you got time to say, bring it, bring it, bring it, or I got time for today, that, like you said, it's not a struggle. How are you going to claim that, as you said, as a struggle, opposed to really, dealing with something that is hard to get out of?
Well, for me, like as I said at the conference, I'm not just ministering to the attendees, I'm ministering to myself. So for me, being able to tie those things, those sayings, and those types of behaviors to myself, and admitting and realizing that, if certain things that we're saying and doing is not a struggle, because a struggle means, which I gave the definition to, a struggle involves effort in trying to overcome. So when you're saying things like, I got time today, that's showing that you're not putting in any effort to withhold responding in anger. So when you're able to admit that, then hopefully, if you're really trying to change and overcome this anger, then by you admitting that, yeah, I wasn't actually struggling in that moment, I chose to react in anger, that'll cause even more conviction and get you to next time, hopefully, choose a different path. So being able to see and say that, yeah, these things are not struggles, this is just me being disobedient, it'll get you right. It'll get you right, because now you're not making an excuse of, well, I'm struggling. God understands. God knows that I'm struggling. Now it's causing you to take action on this thing.
Wow, I like that. Like I said, I thought about your angle of presentation because it was different. And, not that everybody did a phenomenal job. Oh my gosh. But it was just something different about, don't make that excuse, because we're just excuse ridden people. We're always finding, listen, God ain't finished with me yet. God ain't dealt with me on that one yet. Or, I'm only human. We love to just say those things, and yet God has given us a way out. When you say, bring it, you could be over in the corner praying.
Right.
Bring it. You could be walking off, you could be doing a million other things other than challenging the other person. So I really liked the presentation. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. I want to bring on Shantice with you right now. You're welcome. Thank you. Where's Shantice at?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, ladies?
How are
Well,
you?
thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Well, thank you. Good. Uh, okay. So we're going to talk about your side of the presentation. So, when Vivian, she pulled out a clip from your show, Don't Claim That, and she went the angle of, this is just disobedience. What was your thought on that?
I loved it when her and I sat down and we were going over our topics, because last year we introduced the 2 staple segments we had then, and then we decided to do it again for the new staple segments we have now. And when she came from that, I was like, ooh, because that's like giving an extra leg to think about, the struggle. So we think about wrapping our head around the fact that we have a struggle, now wrapping our head around the fact that we can't continue to use the struggle as a crutch. And she was hitting on some points that was getting me a little mad, because I was like, dang, I still be saying that in my alone time with the Lord, or even, in the midst of, certain things where you feel like, okay, I've gotten a little better, but then you find yourself still saying certain things and having a certain type of mentality and leaning on, like, well, listen, this is just deal with it. And God is like, yeah, no, you can't have that concept. So I loved how she just came and it was like, ooh, okay. Nah.
Okay. Well, it hit you too, which was good.
Yes.
I always tell people, when you are, when we appreciate and we have to give a message, the first person that has to hit is you, because it's your conviction and your understanding that helps you get that delivery off. And, I laugh at myself, because when I can tell when it's like stirring in me, because then you definitely get to see I become even more animated, unfortunately, when that happens. But it's something that happens in your inside that helps you to deliver and nail that message. So for the two of you to actually, for Vivian to come up with that concept, and then for you to, not only her, but then for you to be challenged by that, just lets us know that God is on the right track and wants to get our attention.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your side of the presentation. What was your side of the presentation about?
Oh, mine was our other staple segment, Down with the Culture. And again, that's not God saying, yeah, be with it, but don't go down to hell with the culture, because you're so busy claiming the culture that you're not focusing on my morals and standards, God's morals and standards. So I actually met a young lady who is West Indian, and she was talking to me about how God had been convicting her about continuing to go to carnival. That was something that she did annually, or how many times during the year. And this one particular time, she just felt real funny about even telling her best friend she would go. And I was like, you know what? Don't go down with the culture. So focused on that and the origin of carnival, which is the same as Mardi Gras, the whole concept of I'm going to overindulge in these activities and mentality and words and everything, and then I'm going to have this period of time where I abstain from it. And it wasn't until I really started like researching it and reading it, and then how like you be minding your business doing something else, and then the Holy Spirit will bring it back to you with like the logic side of it, and it's like, come on, bro, we ain't no such thing as overindulging, and then now you're just gonna straight go cold turkey and cut it out, and then you're gonna pick it back up, and that, like, come on, no, it doesn't work like that. And that was just one aspect of why God is against events, like that, and having that type of mentality. So it was a really good read and research. Very interesting, because that I'm American, so that's not something that I, partake in, but it comes along in other ways for us, so it may not be carnival, but even the day-to-day mentality, like, okay, well, because I've done that so many times, like, well, let me just do this one more time and then I'm gonna be done. And then the Holy Spirit hit me with, there is no such thing as discipline in sin. So gotta make sure you're careful.
All right. Vivian, what was your thought when you heard Shantice's Down with the Culture about carnival and the concept that it was connected, or the actuality that it was connected to Mardi Gras?
I loved it. I thought it was timely because we're entering into that season where, Labor Day parade and those things are coming up. So I thought that was perfect timing for anybody who, like she said, is used to going out there and being a part of that whole thing. Now God is calling you out. And for this young lady to say that, not understanding why she felt convicted and why God was, calling her out of it, for this to be laid out the way that it did, and to see the origin of all this stuff, I never would have thought. I'm American, but I still used to go to the Labor Day parade and things like that. So to know now that all that was tied to this craziness, it was good. It was good. And it goes along with, the pagan truths that we do and the things that we think is just so innocent. Like, what's wrong with just going out there and repping your culture, repping where you're from? We think these things are so innocent. But little do we know the
Right.
things. I thought it was perfect the way she did it, and then the way she ended it. It was great.
Yes, we had a set of dancers that were presented, and it was fantastic. They were, children dancing, as well as young adults. And what were the age ranges, Shantice?
So from 10 to 20 to about 22, 23 years old were the age ranges for the dancers.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the 10-year-olds were the ones in the front.
Yes.
And I'm watching the energy. And here's the interesting part. One of the things that makes Carnival so popular and fun is the energy.
Yes.
That's what really, everybody's out there, their adrenaline is like 395. And to see these young people, these children dancing to that level for God was amazing. Amazing. There was no difference in their energy for God than it was their energy out at Carnival. And that says a lot. And why is that so important, Shantice?
Because again, there's nothing, we have to make sure that we're teaching God and not personal feelings. So the laziness in the Christian culture says, just don't do nothing at all. Right. Because 50% or 60% of this is against God. So we're not about to sit here and try to, figure out, well, why is that part against God's morals? But no. Listen, God created different nationalities, different cultures. This set of people do this way and that, and so on and so forth. But it was so important for us to incorporate the dance because, one, we understand how God feels about dance, how God feels about the talents and abilities that he's given us. And there's nothing wrong with being West Indian, Guyanese, Jamaican, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you cannot now couple that with all of these other pagan rituals and mindsets and holidays. And now you're so busy, like Vivian said, you're so busy repping that, and oh yeah, I'm West Indian, yeah, I'm West Indian, to where now you're ignoring what God says about you as a human. Like before you're American, Asian, Jamaican, Trinidadian, whatever, you're a child of God. Okay, so now you bypassing that all because you want to be down with a concept that's going to take you down. So it's like, that's why it was so important to incorporate that. Not only that, Pastor Steph, there were a few people who I approached about dancing where they didn't participate, but come to find out they were West Indian and had no idea that this was ungodly, that Carnival was ungodly, Mardi Gras was ungodly,
Wow.
Juve, the whole Labor Day concept like that was ungodly. And that just opened their eyes, planted the seed with that, like, oh snap, I didn't know. One of the young ladies said to me, oh, well, that's crazy because I believe her father's side of the family, or her mom's, I can't remember, is West Indian. And she never really got a chance yet. She's young, but she hasn't really gotten a chance yet to like sit and sink her teeth into that culture, like what it's about and, the lifestyle and so on and so forth. So now to hear that, she was like, oh, I would love to, because I'm going to be learning pretty much. So it was really important to do that, along with giving these young ladies something positive to do, because as we see, they need something positive to look forward to, and they were all so excited to be a part of it. But yeah, it was really important that we incorporated that part, because we can't continue to be a lazy Christian culture and not properly dissect, what God says about these things. It's not always just a straight no.
Absolutely, absolutely. And God's no is purpose, on purpose.
Right.
He makes sure he knows that why.
Right.
He doesn't want us in a tizzy. The Bible tells us God is not a God of confusion. So he doesn't want us to hear these things that is wrong, or see that it's wrong, but now we have no concept as to why.
Right.
So, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vivian, for allowing us to grab you, to be a part of this conversation. And we're going to be talking about, the breaking the yoke over the course of the week, because there were so many messages that were out there for us over the whole period of time. And you all did a fantastic job with your presentation. And again, we thank you so much for helping us send the message about these struggles and how God wants us to deal with the struggles. We pray you have a blessed day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You as well. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Thank you. All right, we have Majesty, who says presentation and dancers were great as well. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're gonna, like I said, over the course of the week, I'm gonna leave my little backdrop up, because I'm going to be talking about this all week long, because this was an amazing experience, and we don't want to not give those who did attend an opportunity to get a little snapshot of what it was like. So
right.
We have our Pastor KL in the room. Hey, Pastor KL.
I'm not sure if Pastor KL is ready as of yet.
Oh, is he chewing on his chicken?
Probably.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to talk about this Coca-Cola company, Fairlife, that they're going after because of the way the company is treating the animals. They are electrocuting them and whipping them and beating them. They are pulling out the calves out of the mother with chains because she's not even in labor. Oh my God. What's your thought? You know, this is where we get our milk from.
Murderers. These were murderers in the making from when they were children. Because I couldn't even, like, what is the point in that? Electrocuting what? Like, what part of your brain said, you know what I'm going to do today? Let me tell you what I'm going to do today. I'm going to figure out a way to electrocute these cows. For what? How does that help your day go by? What? How do you eat after that? Not even beef, anything. How do you eat after that? How do you go to bed after that? How do you have a sound mind and go throughout the rest of the day and night like that? To watch anything with breath just be tortured and at the hands of you. What are you receiving from that? That's my biggest question. What are you gaining from this? To do what? So what were they doing with the chains again?
So first of all, they said that they found out, they had recorded them attacking the pregnant and sick cows, whipped, punched, kicked, and beaten with metal objects, including shovels, wrenches, pipes, and things like that. And they found that it was done by owners, managers, and ranch hands. So everybody has been a part of this abuse. Now, when it comes to the chains, they say they were filmed extracting calves from the mothers, the pregnant mothers, who were not yet in labor, using chains. So in other words, they were going up in the and pulling them out. And the mothers weren't even in labor yet. And you know, why again, why are we treating, you know, anybody this way? And I wanted to really quickly talk about, because we got a couple of minutes to really talk about, Pastor KL can hear us now, but I really want to talk about all this abuse that we're hearing about, and why our beef meat could be tainted because of this. Do you think that there's a connection? Because I surely do.
Yes, and as you were just saying that latter part, what came to mind was how, okay, I haven't eaten beef in over 5 years, and it's to the point where I can't eat, my hands can't even be in the beef without it breaking out and itching uncontrollably. The itching is just, you know how, like when you itch under your skin, so like there's no such thing as scratching it, and my hands will break out. And I was like, well, how is it that I don't have to eat the beef to make hamburgers for someone else, or, you know, we made the meatball, the kebab at the conference this weekend. They were good, by the way. You know, so you asked me to help you make the meatballs, and I was like, dang, I don't have on gloves. All right, I can make these 3. No, I couldn't. My fingers started breaking out and itch. Yes, but to where it can't even come in contact with your skin. Absolutely. God forbid if I was to ingest it. I don't even want to know how that would mess me up. But you're going in there. First of all, there's a reason why, and it's crazy because God, this has been on my mind for like the past month or so, how babies are not born until God says it's time. So whether it's a human baby, an animal, whatever it is, it's like for some reason that's been on my mind. Like, wow, God, you have the baby cooking for whatever amount of time, and then when you say it's time, that baby coming out. Why would you try to go in? You think you're gonna get more milk and get more money that way? So you're putting the animal through trauma, physical trauma, and mental trauma.
Yes.
To get the baby out again for what? And what do you have to do to now make that happen? You going to and I've watched a video of farm, what they call them, farm handlers or farm owners. They were helping the horse who was in labor give birth, and it looked like they were helping properly, and that looked very traumatic. Like, I don't want help with this. And it's time for that baby. There was time for that horse to come. For you to now go, like, come on, like, sick. You're sick. They should be arrested. They should be arrested as if like how they were arresting people for those dog fights and alleys that they were doing all that years ago. They need to be arrested as if they were human, like they were doing this to human people. Because that's just sick. There's something mentally wrong that you would feel it's okay to do that. Like, no.
Yeah, that's just a level of cruelty I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
Can't
that's
even
wicked.
imagine. Pastor KL, good morning.
I'm mad.
Can we hear him?
Yes.
You hear me?
Yes.
Good
Yes.
morning. How you ladies doing?
Yes.
Hello.
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you. Glad to hear of the success.
Thank you. I did inquire about getting you some feed via Zoom, but we were unable to get that accomplished. And
Yeah,
so
no love for the due time crew. No love.
Yeah, we were trying to get it connected. I spoke to Serge, and he told me we just unfortunately could not get it done. So next year,
Serge
God
was a-
spares, you'll be here.
Serge was a friend of mine, but unfortunately.
Now, had it been Terrence, had Terrence been the one, he may have made it happen for you. Thank you so much.
Right?
Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we go into our little relationship dilemma, we're talking about the relationship between man and animal. And they filmed one of the places that care for the animals and produce the milk, and for Coca-Cola to distribute under the name of Fairlife. And they found that it was an unimaginable level of cruelty. They said that they were forcibly extracting unborn calves to deliver their babies by chains who were not yet in labor. They said that they were beating them with metal objects, whipping and punching and kicking them. They also said that cows were stabbed, beaten, shot, and electrocuted. Now, they have all of this on film, so this is not like somebody who says that this is going on. And I was thinking, I'm saying to myself, this is probably why the food is tainted and why we can't digest and eat it and not be sick, and the children look like they're like growing past giant state. Do you think there's a connection?
I do. I think, first of all, to do all that, you're stressing out the animal. Everybody knows that I'm into exotic animals, so you're stressing the animal out. So how do you expect them to produce properly if they're already stressed? I mean, you was kind when you said that the children are growing. These children are sumo wrestlers. They're sumo wrestlers. I mean, they're beyond growing. I see some kids who are bigger than me. You know what I mean? And 9 and 10 years old. It's ridiculous. It really, really, really is. We talk about pit bulls, and then we talk about people who own lions and stuff like that. When you mistreating these animals, what do you think they're going to be? These are the things that you're going to get. You're not going to get a gentle pet. If you keep on beating your child, after a while, your child is not going to produce the way you want it to produce. It's just not. They're resentful.
Right. And it affects them even probably in ways that they don't even realize it. So you're right. That stress and that trauma will have a backlash. Kenny says that's probably why the people spoiling.
Well, I was just going to say that the oxymoron of Fairlife, if you know anything about Fairlife milk, they have the longest expiration. They don't expire like regular milk. So that's crazy.
Wow.
They have the longest expiration.
Wow, and it's something I didn't notice. I didn't notice at all. And it's interesting because Kenny is saying that's probably why the milk is spoiling before the expiration date. So here you're bringing up that they have this extended expiration date, and she's bringing up the fact that the milk is spoiling before they say it's supposed to spoil. So it makes
Right.
every bit of sense. Makes every bit of sense. We have Brother Al on with us. Let's talk to Brother Al this morning. Hey, Brother Al.
Good morning, top of the morning, chop of the. I can't yell loud because the kids on in the class.
Well, good morning. It's good to see you. So we're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about these animals and the cruelty to the animals. And is there, in your opinion, connection between the milk, the meat that could be affected by the way the animals are physically being treated?
absolutely. You know, it's funny that this topic is up because this has been going on for a long time. But
Right.
it's like they don't do what they do, whatever they need to do to these animals. I've seen videos long time ago. I've seen where they had a cow and they got to a point where they implant a hole in the cow where you can actually put their hand down inside the cow. And we're the only species. When you look at it, we're the only species that drink milk from somebody else. No other species does that. And so
Mm,
yes, it's affecting the animal. It's just like a human being. If you just work, and they just keep working, sooner or later you're gonna pass out. You ain't gonna be able to produce correctly. You ain't gonna be able to do anything. So it's the same way with the animals. And I've seen that where they actually work the cow so much till the cow just fell over because it couldn't do nothing else. And then they take the cow and they cut the cow up and sell the meat. So that meat is not good. You know what I'm saying? So most definitely it affects definitely.
wow, 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 wow. Well, thank you so much for indulging me on that particular story because we're talking about relationships. And I wanted to definitely talk about that because that's the relationship between man and animal, but it affects. We were told to have dominion over the earth. That had nothing to do with cruelty.
Right.
Amazing, amazing. All right. So I want to, we have a few minutes, and I want to throw out this different relationship dilemma. And this was interesting, and I want to know what you all have to say about this. So there's a story of a man who goes for an interview, and they said that on paper, when they saw his credentials, they were excited. He was the perfect person that they could use for their software engineering position. They said he passed the first round and they agreed to bring him back and talk to several people. So he would sit before a panel. So they said that when he first showed up, he was very serious and didn't smile at all. So that was something that they noticed instantaneously. That wasn't what he had provided, or presented rather, the first go round. They said after a round of introductions, he asked, could he tell them something about himself? Well, they said he started talking and talking and talking about his personal and professional background. They said after about 3 minutes, the main interviewer said he jumped in and asked a follow-up question based on something that the interviewee had mentioned. And he replied, I will answer, just give me a moment. And he continued to talk. One of the other panelists jumped in after a while, asking another question as he was talking incessantly. And he said the same thing to her. But after about 5 more minutes, the main interviewer said, I had to jump in with another question. And in order to jump in, he had to talk over him. And he said he finally paused and answered, but in such a long-winded way that he ended up veering into an entirely different topic. So the co-worker then asked another question, and the same thing happened. At that point, the main interviewer said, okay, I'm tired. He was tired of the interview, and he tried politely to wrap it up. But he would not read the room and kept on talking. So finally, he raised his voice slightly and said, okay, all right, that's enough. It's over. He said he had asked this final question. The candidate interrupted and found a way to bring the conversation back to himself. He tried once more to interrupt politely, and then he said, at that point, I'm done, John. At this point, I'm done. You really have to shut up and listen. He said, he continued, he told him, you walked into this room with a 99% chance of getting the job. Now that chance is 0. The only reason is because in less than 15 minutes, you've demonstrated that you don't have the capacity to listen at all. So I'm telling you now, you're not getting the job. But if you take anything away from this interview, let it be this. Let it be this. No matter how good you are technically, if you can't listen, you'll never excel in this career. So the interviewee apologized and asked, could they start all over again? And they declined, like, no, thank you. And he, after now that the whole thing is done and he's looking back, he's wondering if, hoping that the guy listens in the future, but wondering possibly if he could have been a little harsh. Brother Al, what say you?
Oh, Brother Al had to step away for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Shantice, go ahead.
Ugh. Well, all of that, having to go back and ask something else and you still talking and then having to ask another question. You definitely don't want to work with someone who does not have good, like they're not hearing you because they're making it all about them. We were watching something last night and someone got hired to manage a restaurant in the absence of the owner while the owner was out temporarily. And when the owner came back, the manager made all these changes that were good, but she didn't clear it with the owner. But because to her, it was beneficial and it was easier for the customers, it was like, I ain't trying to hear you. I'm going to do what makes sense to me and what I feel is beneficial to the customers. And it's like, but you're not hearing me though. And do you remember, like, are you remembering that you're not the owner? Like, you are replaceable, as they say in the streets, sis. Like, you can go because you're not showing how you can comply with what is already going on. Now, if you want to implement some things, then run it by me. If I agree, then we do so. You tell me how it makes sense. Da, da, da. But no one wants to work with someone that they have to continue to speak to, or now, you know what, I didn't try to talk to so-and-so, so now they're going to have to defer to you and all that. And then by the time you know it, you done went through the whole management team because you just don't know how to listen. No, now you become a liability instead of an asset. Employers don't want to hire liabilities. They want to hire an asset. And when you do not listen, you are no longer an asset. You now become a liability. So it's no surprise that they were like, yeah, apology and all, but no thank you, because you didn't give me a headache before you even started. Absolutely not. If you did this during the interview part, the interview portion, what are you going to do after you clock in?
Yep.
No thank you.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Brother Al, what say you? Does he, in hindsight, he's saying maybe it was a little too harsh, the guy asks for another chance. Should he have been given another chance?
Hey, listen, you showed who you were from the jump. You know what I'm saying? Because if I'm hiring you and you come in there and you show me that, oh no, there's no another chance. You already done showed me that you're a little crazy too. So you then flipped off and now you want to be calm? Oh no, sir. No, sir. I thank you so much for coming through. We appreciate you. Don't call us, we'll call you. Have a great day.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that. You two have made very good points. Well, Mr. Interviewer over there, what say you?
Well, you only have one time to make a first impression. And if your first impression is out the door, then that's where you have to go out the door. A lot of times we look very, very good on paper. I mean, we use the best card stock for our resume. I mean, we present ourselves well on paper. But then when you come in there, you're really pooky from the projects. You know what I mean? And you want to tell all your experience on that first day. And I don't care whether we always tell the joke about being on fries. I don't care whether you're on fries or whether you're in corporate. If you don't have the listening skill, you won't make it. You know what I mean? I have to be able to tell you, hey, listen, you got to put the fries on a certain temperature. If you think because you make fries at home, you're going to make it how you make it at home, or you're going to make mama burgers, you know what I mean? The way you want to make mama burgers, it's not going to work. That's not what we sell. We don't sell your ideas, and this is where people don't understand. In order to be an asset, you have to learn the company. In order to learn the company, you have to shut up. I tell people all the time, you may not like me, but be a sponge. Learn everything that I have to offer you so you can get away from me.
Oh my. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'll reserve my comments for closing because I want to get to one more relationship dilemma. So you have a man who says that he and his gorgeous girlfriend had been dating for a few months after meeting through their friends. He said one weekend, she invited him to her place for the first time. She mentioned that her apartment was a little messy, but he kind of laughed it off, because that's what people say, Well, he said he started off when he walked through the door, and he said that the state of the apartment was genuinely shocking, to say the least. It was a pretty small place, which was not bad, but clutter was everywhere. Literal piles of trash on the floor, a sink full of dishes that were rolling onto the counter. He said that there were stains on the couch and carpet, week-old food on the table, and just piles and piles of stuff everywhere. Not to mention the overpowering smell of mold and mildew that you could taste in your mouth.
Oh,
Well, the girlfriend acted like everything was completely normal. They watched the movie on the couch before it got too late. He said he tried not to act weird, but it had to be noticeable. The next day, he said he calls her and told her, I don't think things are going to work out. We're not compatible. And she got mad at me for leading her on and breaking up with her for no reason. I didn't mention the apartment, but maybe I should have. And I'm wondering if I should have. I feel bad for her, and I'm worried I might have acted too quickly. Brother Al.
Brother Al talking. We have to come back to Brother Al.
All right. Dantes, what say you?
I say run and send her a coupon for some cleaning products, you know your place was nasty. You thought by you know, sometimes people try to like undermine things, or they'll make it sound more drastic than what it is. So when someone discovers it or learns about it or experiences, it's like, oh, it's not that bad. You knew your place was nasty. And especially as a female, it's like, come on. I never understood people who knew in advance that someone was coming over, and yet you got me over here like you didn't know I was coming over. Like, why you ain't wipe up that stain for more off? Like, come on. No one wants to see that. No one wants to experience you in that way. Okay, especially if they're dating you, if they expect to spend some type of time around you. No one wants to be able to experience that. Like, just, you should have made plans, either go to his place or go somewhere outside or something. But you, with him, I would have said the same thing. This ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. Because if you're not cleaning up your spot, and you know I'm coming over, what would it look like if I'm just out in the street and happen to be around? I'm like, oh, you home? Okay, can I stop by? Or if this, relationship progresses and now we talking about marrying each other, whatever, this is what I got to look forward to, you doing nothing? Absolutely not. No. So end it quick. As Brother Al said, you showed me who you were. Because I'm 39. I'm not with teaching no grown person how to clean. If you ain't got it by now, that means you're unteachable. Okay? When it comes to that. It's like bathing yourself. If you don't know how to bathe yourself at this era, at this age, what can someone else teach you right now? No. I agree with you.
Wow. Brother Al, what say you?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. They bothered me. I'm like, leave me be. I would say dirty house, dirty body. I don't want to be bothered. That's just it. Dirty house, dirty body. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see it. And when I went to her house, and when I went to her house and saw that and sat down on the couch, we all know how to make our phone ring. I went through my phone and pressed it, made it ring. Oh, hold on, I gotta get this call. What happened? The toilet full. Okay, I'll be right there. Look, baby, I got to go. I got a situation at home. I'd have got out there because I can't do it. I'd have been gone. Dirty house, dirty body.
That's the first time I heard that, Brother Al. But it's true. Yeah. It's true. I agree. Pastor KL.
Well, first of all, you don't know God, so I can't stay with you. Well, what you talk about, Pastor KL? It says cleanliness is as to godliness. So if your house is a wreck, smelling like mold, first of all, I think he stayed there long enough. When you said he stayed and watched a movie,
Whoa.
As you know, movies are at least 2 hours. So you stayed there in the mold. Did you have dinner in the mold smell? Listen. I think you need to get the award. Because that was crazy. But as you put my life in danger because I'm in a moldy place, I would have had to tell you why we wasn't working out. So there would not have been any question of me leading you on, because when she said that you led me on, then my question would be, did you have sex in the mold? Because that's the only reason why she could say that you leading me on is because, you probably got it and you left and now you don't want to talk to me anymore. So you sat in the mold. You ate in the mold. You slept in the mold. You just as dirty. You might as well marry her. You just as dirty. If you accepted all that stuff but for an hour, you know what I mean? Just but for an hour? Are you crazy? You just as bad. We're going to be moldy together.
You have a dirty wedding.
You look like those.
Have a dirty wedding.
Well, Shantice, you didn't mention as to whether He should have told her why he didn't want to be bothered with her anymore. Should he have, or just walking away was good enough?
No, because then she gonna have somebody else in there. You gotta let her know.
What?
Because you don't want.
Okay.
Yeah, like she thinking whatever conclusion, because when you just walk off, you leave them to draw their own conclusions, and now they're gonna have somebody else sit up in there. No, you gotta let her know so you can help the next brother out. Okay, help her, help him, save his life. Like, listen, this, especially as a female, this ain't gonna work. I can't be sitting up in this, and it's not fair to anybody else, the stray cat, the dog, whoever, to be sitting up in this. No, yeah, he definitely should have told her why.
Well, I disagree with Shanti. The next person is on his own.
Oh
He
no!
on his
So are
own.
you saying you would have told? You would have left her?
I definitely would have told her because that's how I am. I'd have been like, listen, if she said, well, why, what's happening? Listen, your house is dirty and I can't get with that. So we ain't going to work out. But I ain't trying to save the next person. I'm sorry. He on his own.
Oh no! A nigga says, "Save a life, let them know." Oh my goodness gracious! Wow. You know, I don't. We talk about relationship dilemmas all the time, and we talked about two very different relationship dilemmas, or three very different relationship dilemmas today. And I always like to ask, what are we leaving? This struggle thing is really sticking with me. What would you leave? Clearly there's some struggles here. Whether you struggle with human life, whether you struggle, and how human and animal treatment should be done, whether you're struggling with just incessantly talking about you, that you just don't even understand when you need to be quiet, or if you would literally invite somebody to your house knowing that the place was so nasty, so you clearly have no respect or care or concern about people. What, brother Al, what would you what's your takeaway from this today? What would you like to give the people today before you go?
I would say it's just like being a drug addict. You have to admit the problem first. You can't help yourself if you don't think that you have a problem. So you have to admit your problem first of what the struggle is that you're going for and how can I fix it. And I tell people all the time, I always prescribe prayer. But the first thing is to recognize that there's a problem, recognize that there's a struggle, recognize that there's a problem. And then once you recognize, okay, you know what, this ain't good, I need help. So I would say recognize the situation, the problem, and then run from there. But pray, definitely pray. And God, I'm struggling with this. I need your help.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Al. Shatis,
Yeah.
what you've heard these three dilemmas, and what would you like to give the viewers?
Oh, pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to the effect you're having on the next person. And, God keeps reminding us that it's not about us. He needs us to always put someone else's consideration and, their needs, so on and so forth, before ours. And while we're doing that, he's taking care of us. And this is why. Because when you make it all about you now going into animals to get their offspring, and you got people coming to your house, you ain't clean it because of what you want. I want company. I want extra milk, which may equate to extra money. I want. And you're not thinking about the next person or the next thing. You're not considering that. So make sure you're considerate, because regardless of the type of relationship, consideration is key. If you're not being considerate, if you're not being thoughtful, if you're not being humble, then the relationship is just going to go downhill quickly.
All right. I like that. I like that. You two brought up some good stuff. Pastor Kale, how we wrapping this up? What do we say to the people today?
Well, I mean, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You don't want nobody whipping you with chains. You know what I mean? You don't want to go to someone's house, whether it's the first date or the last date, and their house is a wreck. You don't want that. That's a bad impression. And to the one that can't shut up, you need to evaluate yourself. That's a form of insecurity. When you got to keep talking about you and keep on having ideas, and the company has already been made. The company is running without you. You will be the addition. You will not be the company. So sometimes we get so gun ho. There is an insecurity in who you are. You need to be more confident. You need to know who God has called you to be and walk in that. A lot of times we just want to hear ourselves talk. We want to impress people so badly that we lie. And then we begin to believe the lie that we're lying. We really think we're the president. You know what I mean? So we got to be careful. There's a lot of things that we go through, insecurities. When your house is a mess, it's an insecurity. There is a level of some type of insecurity that you cannot face. No one just lives in mold and does not see their surroundings. There is something that you are lacking. We need to first look in the mirror, evaluate ourselves, do a diagnosis on ourselves, and then move forward. You can't invite anyone or you can't go anywhere until you get you together.
Amen. 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 Thank you so much, my Due Time crew. And thank you for your contribution into today's conversation. And we pray you have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Good seeing you,
too.
Brother Al.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here we are with my, 2 cents. So you have the interviewee who incessantly talks through the interview. And he starts off by asking, can I tell you a bit about myself? Well, you didn't start it off wrong. You're here for a second interview, and they want to know things about you. But if you're brought back for a second interview, you need to find out exactly what they want from you. It is not about what you can give them at this point. You made that impression when you were there for the first interview. Now you're coming back to hear more about the company, to hear more about what they're looking for, who they're looking for. And if they've invited you back, you're definitely a candidate. They're definitely considering hiring you. Well, as the interviewer said, you had 99% chance of leaving this place with the job. But because you were so insecure that you had to tell them everything that you felt they needed to know about you, and because you could not stop talking, because when they asked you a question, you told them, I'll get to that. You proved that you weren't ready. Your struggle with insecurity talked you right out of a job. And they were pretty gung-ho about you being a part of their company. So too bad for you. It didn't happen. We talk about the house where you have been dating someone for a few months who called you gorgeous, and you finally invite him over to a train wreck. Now, I'm surprised Shantice didn't say this, because she's always thinking, like the devious side of things and what people could really mean. And part of my thought was, did you invite him there to break up? I can't imagine I can't imagine you liking someone, but yet you're introducing them to your home that looks like this. Couldn't imagine. In a million years, could not imagine. And I'm saying to myself, she doesn't want to be with him. This is her way to get him to break up with her. She claims that you, what did she say? You led her on. Well, so did you. If this wasn't a way for you to get rid of him, then you led him on as well. He says you're gorgeous, which means that you're well put together externally. At least to him, you're gorgeous. So now that ultimately means that what you got going on here has nothing to do with what you got going on in the background. So you were misleading as well. Your struggle of sensitivity, your struggle with respect, because nobody who respects you would invite you over to that. If I have this saying, you smell you before anybody else smells you, which means that even though your home was a train wreck, there's no way you didn't know that home wasn't a train wreck for someone else. Even if you've gotten accustomed to this lifestyle that has nothing to do with the other people. So you have an insensitivity issue. You're struggling with that. You're struggling with respect. You're struggling with keeping your house together. So you got several struggles. Now, Shantice always says, pick a struggle. Pick a struggle. And you would definitely benefit from focusing on each thing and letting God deal with it. Because anytime you would take the time to invite someone over, anytime you would take the time to interview, and it's your words from the moment you sat down until the moment you left, there's a problem. There is a problem. And, understanding, and the Due Time Chorus said it, acknowledging is the key. It's the first key to getting things resolved. You cannot get things resolved when you don't even realize what's going on. Last year, when we did the conference and The Struggle is Real came up, it had its effect on me. But this year, it really has had, it's just sticking with me. And I think between last year and this year, I don't think I've seen so much struggle in man that I have ever seen. And my tagline, what did God say, or what does God say, is imperative to our walk with Christ. All of the presenters were instructed to bring scripture. Why? Because it's not a matter of your opinion. It's not a matter of your thought. You can all, we can all give our feelings and our understanding and, speak into, everybody's life and say what's good or bad. But we wanted to hear, what did God say? And they did an excellent job just presenting that. Scriptures. What did God say? Because regardless of our struggle, if we don't realize that God needs to clean us up, then it won't matter. And like I said, over this past year, between last July 27th and July 19th of 2025, the level of struggle that I have witnessed has been breathtaking. Breathtaking. stuff that should be so evident because it's simply not working should be no longer a struggle. The stuff that I've seen people push past. Why? God has shown you that this is a struggle, and here's how he wants to deliver you. And it goes right over everybody's head. And I'm like, yo, are we really missing this? Have we really become so self-centered that we're not hearing God? Pastor KL said a while ago, God is talking, but he ain't talking to me. I forgot how he said it, but God is speaking, but he's not talking to me. Something to that effect. And what that says is you hear God. You hear what's going on around you, but it's just not applicable to you. And this sensitivity that people are experiencing, I have to ask you, and I will ask you today, are you more concerned with your feelings and sensitivity or going to hell? Help me out. Help me understand. Are you more sensitive to your feelings getting hurt, or do you just not care about going to hell? Because that's what this is boiled down to be. God says, I don't want to see any of my people perish. So in order to keep you from perishing, he's got to present the real to you. He's got to present the remedy to you. And when the remedy is given gently, we ain't catching it. When the remedy is given on a higher level, now we all sensitive and we whining. You didn't have to say it like that, and they didn't have to say this, and they didn't have to say it didn't have to happen like this, and it didn't have to happen like that, and yeah, it did. Because I'm still seeing, you're not catching it. Now, as we close, let me help you understand what not catching this struggle and allowing God to fix this struggle will do. You will be held bound. Now, I can't put you there, and I can't take you out of it. But I'm here to warn you that God wants to deal with your struggle. And if your struggle is being insensitive, if your struggle is being prideful, if your struggle is anger, if your struggle is tardiness, laziness, procrastination, all of those things, trust me when I tell you, all of those things could take you to hell. You know why? Because your life is written in procrastination. Your life is written in laziness. Your life is written in anger. Your life is written in insensitivity. And when your life is written in these things, everything you do, your entire life is affected, and there's nowhere in the world you will be able to get away from that if you do not let God deliver you from these struggles. There is nowhere in the world that the Bible is not true. And it says that an unstable man is unstable in all his ways. So this is why I tell you that if you struggle with laziness, everywhere you go, you lazy. In everything you do, you're lazy. How are you going to make it into the kingdom if your struggle is laziness? And you don't let it go, because you won't work for God. God needs workers. He needs people on and in his vineyard and on the battlefield. They're discipling others and drawing people to him. Now, if you're lazy, you surely can't accomplish that. So God would easily consider you a failure. You didn't bring one soul to me? I don't know. I can't put you in hell. All I can do is try, excuse me, to keep you out and let you know how serious these things are in your life. Excuse me. Fight. Excuse me. Fight, but learn how to fight. Learn what to fight with, over. Let God do the major fight, but you're going to have to fight as well. You're going to have to fight against anything that is keeping you or that could possibly keep you out the kingdom. You will have to roll up those sleeves and get that enemy off your back. And the only way to let the enemy know that you don't want him on your back is to make sure you fight him off. Because he ain't letting go so easily. So make sure you get it together. Not tomorrow, now. Because the struggle is real. But God is more real than any struggle you could ever have. You've been watching It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. Join us Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. where we discuss matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. As you go through your day, be sure to set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. They will only serve as a distraction. Remember, prayer changes things. It's Pastor Steph signing off, and I want to thank my Due Time crew for coming through big time. Thank you for hanging out with us. Please do not miss the opportunity to strengthen your life with the Lord. Please do not miss the opportunity to accept Jesus as your personal Savior right now, because later is not promised to any of us. I want to personally thank Miss Charlene. Hey, Miss Charlene, for being an attendee at the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference on Saturday. I want to personally thank Miss Grace and her family for coming out and just blessing us with your presence at the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference. I want to thank Terrence's wife, Melissa. I sure hope I'm saying that right, for coming out and being a part of our day at the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference. Thank all of you who took the time to come out. And those are the three that come to the top of my head. And if over the week, Majesty. Thank you, Majesty, for coming out and being a part of our day at the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference on Saturday. You see this logo behind me. Majesty created a backdrop for us. And it came out beautiful, and we were able to proudly hang it on our wall to indicate that that's what we were celebrating, the Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference. So keep up the good work. Thank you so much. I can't think of anyone else who attended, who listens. But, like I said, if you were in the metropolitan area, you didn't want to miss. Over the course of the week, I will continue to thank, Shantice and Vivian. Again, we had them on. If we could possibly get anybody else on from, the conference who participated, we will. I want to take this time to thank Teresa, Ketty, Anika, India, Mariah, Heaven, Abby, Isaiah, Lil Israel, Gwen. What else am I talking about? Serge. The work you did was absolutely amazing. Amazing. Like I said, from the back of the room to the front of the room, from the bottom of the room to the top of the room, from the left to the right, it was an amazing, amazing presentation. And yeah, I drive you crazy, but look at the results. you all have such gifts and talents that you are giving back to God, and that will enhance everything that you do for man. Only what you do for Christ will last. Keep serving God with your gifts and talents. Also, Brielle and Brianna, who stepped in to help Messiah, who stepped in, and they all did a fantastic job just pitching in and making it happen for us. They were the reason why this Breaking the Yoke Women's Conference 2025 was such a success. Over the course of the week, I will name the attendees, I will name the presenters. Everybody was absolutely phenomenal. I give God thanks for each and every one of you. And don't forget, I love you.